to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello everyone and welcome to a very special Christmas episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for this evening's festivities as we review Krampus. Not the Asylum movie, Krampus the Christmas Demon, but just Krampus. I'm the editor-in-chief over at bloodygoodhorror.com. First up, joining me tonight from the wonderful city of Chicago, Illinois, with a beer in his hand, his name is Joe.
We call it Chirac now.
That's right. That's right. Next up, also from that place, tonight wearing a sensitive sweater and his best web designer beard outfit. His name is Mark.
Don't let this sensitive sweater fool you. I am also a Chiraki.
Chiracian. And last up tonight, the Zach Morris of BGH The New Class. He's been with us several times lately. And he's back again. His name is Evan. And
hi there, everybody.
There he is.
Evan, are you old enough to get a Zach Morris reference?
I don't know. I'm not sure what the Zach Morris reference is, but I would love to hear why I'm Zach Morris.
All right, Evan, you got robot voice going on, so we are going to keep moving along here.
Beautiful.
Krampus. That's what
Right.
we're here to discuss tonight. Right, Joe? Mark,
Yeah.
do you feel better now that you've finally feasted your eyes upon Krampus?
Yeah, I do feel like there's been a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah,
No.
I'm interested to hear, like, finally after like the build up and everything, possibly meet expectations.
I think we're gonna get to it.
We would like
It's
to
a
hear
suck-
all the details of your Krampus-related sexual release, if you could.
I was with a friend.
Yeah.
He was very uncomfortable. And then
Um,
went and drank beers, and I almost fell asleep in the middle of the day because that's what you do.
oh, yeah.
Do.
Casey and Joe out tonight. We are, of course, kind of...
John,
Joe's
too.
here.
I'm here. John's
Casey
up.
and John out tonight. We are rolling heavy into the end of the year here. Joe, would you like to just kind of walk us through the next few weeks briefly?
Yeah, I can walk us through the next 2 weeks because that's what I've got in my head. Pretty much we've got Hellions next week, which I think we all kind of wanted to squeeze in for our end of year. And then we have our end of year episode where I think we decided we're going to be streaming that live, opening up for
free
everyone.
to the masses, and we'll send that link out on our Twitter and Facebook if you follow us on there.
Right.
Not just the Patron users, but oof.
Evan is dead.
I think he just got unfriended.
That was the first ever murder live on Bloody Good Horror.
Unfriended.
I get it.
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
No, we just heard major shuffling when it sounded like someone being hit over the head with a blunt
Yeah.
object.
Wow, no, I'm just like literally sitting here.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening.
Creepy.
It sounded like a stoner guy getting his hand shoved in a blender.
No.
So next week is what, Joe? I'm sorry.
Hellions.
Hellions, then Year Ender.
Then year ender, and then come February we actually have there's a decent amount. I think I got a few trailers before Krampus, but
To
The
be clear,
Forest-
we will do shows in January.
yeah, The Forest I think is coming out in theaters, which I think we'll talk about trailer wise. 50 Shades of Black is coming out at the end of January,
God.
which I don't know if we've decided that we're doing, but
Wait, that's a real name.
It's Marlon. It's like a Marlon Wayans spoof on 50 Shades of Grey that
Oh.
looks cool. Like I mean,
thank
we
you.
reviewed A Haunted House, right? That movie was kind of terrible but surprisingly tolerable. This looks like the worst thing that has ever been made.
Agree to disagree on a haunted house.
No, believe me, if you haven't seen this trailer.
I mean, I'm sure this is worse, but that doesn't make a haunted house
This is
any
like
better.
what is the guy's name? Seltzer Friedberg level of like Meet the Spartans level of parody going on.
Oh
so,
yeah,
yeah.
Meet the
Those guys made all those movies.
yeah, there's something called Lights Out, which apparently is getting a wide release.
What's
which
Lights Out about?
I have no idea. Doesn't
Cool.
ring a bell, but it's gonna be there.
Not ringing a bell.
Yeah. So January looks to be a busy month for theater goers.
All right, who saw this Forest trailer? We wanted to discuss that a little briefly off top here.
I saw it before my viewing of Krampus.
Yeah,
what
I
is
saw
what
it-
is this about? I saw it. I'm not sure.
It's literally like like two twin sisters, and they feel each other's emotions all the time. And one of them goes to the woods where people apparently commit suicide. It's like a special part of the woods to do that.
Okay, yes, I did see this.
Yeah. me too.
And so she's like, I have to go make sure she's okay. And then basically they just tell you the entire movie while she goes to look. And I'm like, I bet you she's going to be like dead the entire time or something like
Right.
that. I don't know.
Uh,
You know, I actually remember that trailer for like the really hacky little screen that comes up at the end, like that subliminally encourages you to Google that the suicide forest is a
Oh,
real
yeah.
thing.
The let me Google that for you screen.
Yeah,
Right.
because it is like, I mean, there is a forest in Japan that's had like an unusual high number of teenagers commit suicide there. So like,
It's
okay,
called the Aokigahara. I just looked it up.
yeah,
Oh,
but like, you know, okay, I've heard about it before. There's been a lot of there was like another Japanese movie that was called like the Suicide something or other. That's about kind of the same thing, but that
I
shit
don't
just
think
pisses me off.
I don't know. I don't think it looks that bad. Am I like? Am
No,
like,
I literally
soft in my old age. I don't
it
know.
was the end screen that pissed me off. The rest of it,
No, the
I-
end screen is really stupid.
it'll
It just-
probably be pretty butt clenchy.
I don't know. It was just one of those trailers where like I feel like everything was kind of 80 yard. Like they just were trying to make a trailer out of scenes that
yeah.
they couldn't. So it was like you just see the back of someone's head and like this voice like, where should I go now? You know, just I don't know.
I guess my
Just as-
question is, do you do the let me Google that screen because you think that, like, you know, inspired by a true story has been so played out that people tune it out? Is that why you do it? Or do you know what I mean? Like, it seems really interesting. Why wouldn't you just say, like, based on a real phenomenon or something?
Yeah, I guess how do you say that though? Like, I
But,
don't usually.
but it's been said about movies even less based in reality, is my point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe they are just banking on the fact that people don't know that this is a real thing, so
Yeah.
then they want them to check it out.
Right.
Which I knew it was a real thing, but for some reason I just went and Googled it, even though I knew it was real.
so it worked.
Maybe it worked. Yeah, it totally worked. Yeah. So there was that trailer. I saw the Deadpool trailer before the
Yeah, so it was weird because we kind of just talked about this briefly before the show, but Deadpool's like hard R, and I had seen that trailer on the internet, and it's filled with like amazing gore and like cursing and stuff. But Krampus is PG-13, so that's the version we got before it. So it was, I don't know, having seen the other one, I found it bizarre because it's the exact same trailer, but just with all the cool shots excised out of it.
It's
Is
very
this-
Ryan Reynolds'
Yeah, so then all you get is Ryan Reynolds being like, "Heh," and just like
two guys, a girl, and a Deadpool pizza.
hamming
show.
it up.
is this Marvel's first R movie? I have no idea, and I don't know if you guys do, but
Marvel's maybe. Might be.
I don't know. Is Punisher Marvel or no?
Eh.
Sure.
oh man,
Like,
we're gonna
like
make
that-
we're gonna make some nerds
I don't.
mad.
I don't read comic books, but I do.
Jason?
I think one of them they made for Punisher was like a hard R as well.
Yeah.
I do
don't
know
know.
that this movie like wasn't going to be made or something, and then it was like there was test footage of Ryan Reynolds released, and
Punisher is Marvel.
people freaked out about it, and then it actually ended up getting made, which is kind of a cool thing.
I did like the line of
Yeah.
just don't make my my suit green and don't make it all like CGI or
Yeah.
something like that. Like
Yeah.
you know, a little nod to the Green Lantern.
You know what? I'm okay with Ryan Reynolds. I like him.
Everything he does is pure gold to me. I don't care
Yeah,
if
he's funny. I feel like he's one of those guys too. I know you guys argued with me on this, but I feel like he's one of those guys that people sometimes will say like they apologetically like.
yeah.
But I just think he's a funny dude.
I refuse to apologize.
Waiting,
Van Wilder,
waiting. Come on.
waiting was good. Van
That
Wilder.
dog's balls were so big.
Van Wilder's like old school at this point, Joe. I was like before.
That is weird.
That was like before
I-
Evan was born.
I loved Two Guys,
Yeah,
a Girl,
I
and a
was
Pizza,
a baby.
pizza place, and that is where I first discovered my love for all things Ryan
Listen, not
Reynolds.
to out Ryan Reynolds you, but I remember him from the Canadian teenage soap opera 15 on Nickelodeon.
I do remember that, but he wasn't funny on that.
No, it was just like it was very after school specially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that we've had this exact same conversation on The Voices, BGH Classic, and
We've probably had
and
this conversation. Yeah.
RIPD, BGH
Yeah.
Classic.
Oh, That movie was kind of good.
Yeah, I'm fine
But
with that.
not
like
on
that
our
movie.
but not on our Buried episode because
Yeah.
it doesn't exist.
We may have, but it just didn't get out there.
Buried It. The only
Yeah,
episode,
actually, we probably did.
the only episode that I ever put into the trash bin and cleared the trash bin and was gone. Like, there's definitely been times when I accidentally almost deleted the file, but then caught it before I cleared the trash bin. But
Well, this
Nope.
is done. Now
Yeah.
I put it in the garbage, and now we're good.
This is a perfectly good episode, but I think it might be expired. I'm just gonna throw it out.
see, it was but it was worse on my Mac because part of the problem was that I didn't have a lot of hard drive space, so I constantly had to be like clearing stuff out. I don't really have that problem.
That
anymore.
garbage can is like so enticing. It's like
Yeah.
really pretty.
It is fun. I like the little noise it makes.
Yeah, that little metal clang noise. That's great.
Yeah.
It's very satisfying. So Ryan Reynolds is cool. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what else. I don't remember what else I got. The theater that I'm in now with these seats, I can like reserve my seat ahead of time,
Oof.
like the exact seat I want. So I don't really have to
Mm.
show up 45 minutes early anymore.
You have to pay extra for that?
No, the tickets are the same exact price. Now, what I learned the downside is that the theaters only have like 30 seats in them. So when my wife and I went, we were going to see Krampus at 5:30 on Saturday, and we showed up at like 5 o'clock, and it was sold out.
I saw you guys post that. I'm like, holy shit! Is
Yeah,
this movie like
but it was
blowing up or
because
something?
these theaters, because they're all the recliners, there's like, it's got to be less than half the number of
Yeah.
normal seats. So instead, I just went over to the Fandango kiosk and bought tickets for the next morning, which I probably didn't need to do because it wasn't filled. But
Speaking of being sold out, do we want to have this conversation about the box office numbers for the Krampus?
Mark, I think you know that I would love to.
Yeah, because you lost.
I mean, if you don't understand the concept of winning, then sure.
Yeah. Well, I gotta dig it up here.
Well, we were arguing last show about like not knowing how much Krampus was gonna make, and it's weird because like some of us were pretty close, although in our minds we were saying that was a failure, whereas when it hit, like people were losing. Every hacky movie site writer wrote a headline last weekend about Christmas miracles. Because, you know, why not just write the most fucking obvious thing possible?
The most hacky fucking headline
Yeah.
you could possibly write.
But, like, because it made, like, 16 million opening weekend, that to me is a shitty number. Sorry. Like, in my predicting that I thought it was going to fail, I said 14. So,
I don't
Yeah.
know that is 16 million really that bad?
Well, it was only made
No, it's
for
not.
15. So I mean, for
Yeah.
this movie, I think it's great.
To be fair, we did have I think it was New Jersey Nick tweet at us that
Oh,
we
yeah.
were dead fucking wrong and that it would make like $3 million. So
yeah, I didn't think it was going to be that low. I mean, it was like I don't know, it was a good weekend, I feel like, for people going out to the movies. I think it's going to get pretty good word of mouth, too. So you might have it see it have a strong second week.
yeah. So
I'm not saying it's a failure. I just don't think 14 is like the amazing number that people were like shitting themselves about.
I think everyone
Well-
just had really low expectations.
so
It does
made
help in life, Joe.
It
Yeah,
made
exactly.
$16 million. So technically,
So who
Eric
won?
wins because he was the closest without going over. But I guessed 18, which is, you know,
Over,
I think closer
which is
because
not
it's
winning.
not.
16. It's
You ever seen The Price is Right, Mark? That is what the rules are.
$0.02 million. So technically, I'm closer, but
Technically, you lose.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
Agree to
what I
disagree.
really need to know is if Eric wore his lower back pillow to the movie.
No, and my back hurt afterwards. And you know, it was the first time that Laura had gone to this theater with me, and she's like, "Yeah, my back does kind of hurt." So it's
Oh,
not.
no.
It's not just me.
You guys
It's not
didn't
just
enter
you.
your sleep number into the seat.
My Bobopedic.
God, I would love one of those.
Yeah.
That'd be
number,
pretty
yeah.
nice for a theater. I'd be into that.
There you go.
I thought about bringing a pillow. I'm not gonna lie.
So
You should have.
I think that even though, I mean, we knew this movie was not going to be in the like triple digit millions, so we were kind of playing on an even playing field. But I liked guessing at box office numbers. We used to do it with every mainstream movie, and then said, "Fucking forget it," because we're
Well,
not.
it's just
I
hard to
think we
keep
just
up
forget.
with and remember. Yeah, exactly. It's hard to remember things, Mark.
It's fun to do.
I mean,
We're
I
like
understand.
I guess we're more organized now, though. So you know.
We are at least putting off the impression that we're more organized than we have been in the past.
Yeah. Speaking of being organized, Schnars is currently organizing our top 10 of the year stuff. So deadline is this Friday. So I would presume that you'll start seeing some lists soon here. We do will do like a site-wide list where he aggregates all the numbers, and then I think in years past, like every writer's gotten a day where they can just do kind of mini write-ups on their own lists.
So you got that backwards. We post all the mini write-ups first, and then at the very
I
end.
actually didn't say when we post things, Mark, so I think I got it frontwards.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
Think so?
Once again, Mark loses.
Yeah, someone's bitter about losing.
If and buts were candy and coconuts, wouldn't it be a Merry Christmas?
I'm just gonna mute for the rest of the show.
Yeah. So yeah, either way, Mark, end of the year stuff coming up hot and heavy here. It's about to happen.
BloodyGoodHorror.com. Also on BloodyGoodHorror.com, an excellent list written by Joe.
Hey!
And we're continuing with this trend of doing the United States of horror. So our first list was a list of Appalachian horror films. And this one is New York horror films, which Joe made a very interesting discovery when he was working on his list of New York films.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Alligator?
The one that's set in the bayou?
No, it's about this kid who pretty much gets a baby alligator at a fair, flushes it down the toilet.
Oh,
the alligator
yes.
lives in the sewers for years. My entire I saw that movie so many times as a kid, and I always thought it was set in New York City. So I was writing up my stuff and wrote like a pretty funny blurb about it, and then went to look up the year, and the first thing it says set in the city of Chicago.
Oh, no shit.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
save it for the Chicago list then.
Yeah.
It's number one on the Chicago list. I've already started it.
I was thinking about the Tobe Hooper film Eaten Alive.
Oh.
Which coincidentally is terrible.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Not good. It's interesting. It's visually interesting. It's kind of like TCM, early TCM 2 period almost. So it's like very kind of wacky and colorful and stuff, but it's not good. It's not good.
Tobias Hooperis.
Yeah. Joe?
Yeah.
What are we drinking tonight while
it
we
beer
review Krampus?
Well, this might come as a big surprise to everyone. And I already got some snarky tweets prior to picking this out, but I think it seems pretty obvious that you would pick Southern Tier Brewing Company's Krampus to accompany the movie Krampus.
It's a good. I've actually had that one. It's a good beer.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a little on the nose. It's a little obvious, but you know what? It's a super.
You're
good
only
beer.
doing this because Schnars isn't here to call you out.
Well, whatever. Let's be honest. Schnars' word probably would be Krampus also. So Southern
Joe,
Tier Brewing.
you'll get to find out what the word of the day is in a little bit here.
Southern Tier, based out of Lakewood, New York, which is in the middle of fucking nowhere, New York, or as I like to call it, nothing else to do there, so you can't convince your wife to take a drive to Lakewood, New York. And Krampus is what they call a Helles Lager. And what that means, it's pretty much in the early days of Yorn, people really got into Pilsners, and people in Germany kind of freaked out that oh my God, everybody's going to start drinking these beers from the Czech Republic and stop drinking our beers. So they created this style.
Czechs.
Yeah. So pretty much the Helles Lager is the Germans' response to the Pilsner. A little maltier. Sometimes you get a little more hops. Krampus is what they call an imperial version. So it comes in at 9% alcohol. So it's definitely up there. It's good for the winter because it's got that nice warming effect. But I think, and you guys have had this, I still think it's super crisp. You drink it and it's got a little bit of that alcohol burn, but it's a really drinkable beer. It definitely has a Pilsner sort of, I keep saying crispness, but it does. It's not a hard beer to drink.
It does taste like Christmas and gets you violently drunk.
Unlike you, Joe, I like a good alcohol burn in a beer.
Yeah, I'm not a big hard liquor fan, so I usually
it helps me melt away the voices in my head.
Yeah.
Quicker.
If I feel like I have to brush the roof of my mouth after drinking a beer,
yeah,
that's a good beer.
But this one is great. I love Southern Tier. They put out one of my favorite pumpkin beers, Pumpkin, which we talk about pretty much every October. And everything they put out is great. They do some really good beers. Everything they do is awesome. So I wholeheartedly say you should support them. And they distribute pretty far in the U.S., so you should be able to find this stuff, at least on the sort of Midwest to Eastern border or East Coast. stbeer.com is their website, which is not confusing at all. And yeah, definitely check them out and enjoy.
Amazing. Krampus. All right, guys, let's take a quick break here and move on to review the movie.
I'm gonna have to be taking your car today. See, I have some top secret clown business that supersedes any plans that you might have for this here vehicle.
This is Diane Franklin from Better Off Dead with Bloody Good Horror.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. Fuck the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. It's time. What do you
Pull out.
Heyo. It's time for Krampus. You know what else is time for, Joe? The word of the day. What's that you say? Schnars isn't here? Well, tough shit. Because my name is me. And it's time.
You should start a Google Doc and put your word of the day in there.
Week one.
It is time for the word of the day. Oh, hey, Eric. What's the word of the day today? Well, Eric, I'm glad you asked. So here's how I dealt with the Krampus problem, Joe. I would be remiss to not talk about Krampus because it is amazing. And there's stuff that, like, you know, your average person doesn't necessarily know. So I have some Krampus facts. But for the actual word, I wanted to mix it up a little bit. So the word of the day today is schmutzly.
Oh! You know, Eric, that doesn't sound like you just thought of that as we were starting the show today.
Joe,
I appreciate your effort.
I spent almost the entire time it took me to bake my frozen pizza dinner looking this word up. Schmutzly is the Swiss version of Santa's evil sidekick. Schmutzly carries a broom made out of twigs that he uses to beat kids when they're bad. He's generally depicted as a terrifying figure clad in dark clothing and makeup. Schmutzly is his German name, while Switzerland's French speakers refer to him as Père Fouettard, which means the whipping father.
He sounds like Marilyn Manson.
I just really like the word schmutzly. So just want to do a little
I prefer Professor Schmutzly.
Yeah, want to do a little quick deep dive on Krampus here. So Krampus, from the German Krampen or claw or giddy child murderer, I found a cheeky definition for this, was born of a pre-Christian Alpine pagan tradition and has been described as a, quote, boozy, goat-horned menace that whips children around Europe. Lest you can...
Sure that wasn't the
nickname in high
description of
school.
Joe?
Yeah. Krampus can also be identified by his matted black hair, Gene Simmons-like tongue, cloven hooves, and I can only assume a penis that is violently barbed like a house cat's, but also...
Where are you reading this? This isn't
This
Wikipedia.
is official. This is dictionary.com. But also corkscrewy and muddy like a pig's Johnson.
What the fuck?
He also sports a large wicker basket on his back filled to the brim with thorny, unbreakable birch sticks, which are used for whipping. When it comes to punishment, Krampus doesn't stop at birch rods. Under the tutelage of Pinhead and various Cenobites, Krampus's retribution repertoire grew tenfold over the centuries. According to a series of very popular 1800s postcards, Krampus enjoyed ripping pigtails out, leading children off a cliff, sadistic ear pulling, putting preteens in shackles, forcing children to beg for mercy, and throwing youngsters on an express train to the Lake of Fire, making no local stops.
More importantly, did you say 1800s postcards?
Yeah. They had mail in the 1800s.
People sent postcards?
Yeah.
Like,
Does that seem
greetings?
that
Well, I mean, like, where were they going? Like, I can't imagine people vacation
to other people's houses?
Yeah, like
I don't
greetings from down the road. Wish you were here.
Have you died yet?
So, Krampus. I don't know how true any of that is, but wasn't it more interesting than John's usual definitions? I think the
that's
answer is
best.
yes.
I would
So-
put it top 5 for sure.
Yeah. So,
I mean, the man's not even here to defend himself.
well, That's nothing new.
He'd probably phone that in too. Let's be honest.
I have to phone into the defense of himself.
Oh.
All right, guys. So quick here, Krampus, directed by one. Is it Mike or Michael? Right, Michael Dougherty.
Steve.
I think that the credits actually said Michael, which I thought was interesting.
It's listed as the Michael.
He of Trick or Treat fame.
Yep.
Hasn't done a lot that I'm aware of in between the two films. I'm sure he's done stuff. I just haven't heard his name a lot. And if you recall, Trick or Treat had like a really long and kind of tumultuous road to release. So dude hasn't exactly had the easiest time with his movies. And in a lot of ways, actually, this movie's really interesting because it kind of seems like a spiritual, like, I don't know, kindred holiday film, if that makes sense. But
I can't wait to see his Easter film.
yeah, it's going to be sweet. So basically, the film is about a family. You've got Adam Scott, Toni Collette, our parents. They have a kind of preteen son and a teenage daughter. They are, I don't know, waspy, upwardly mobile, maybe you might call it. Also a little uptight. You know, Toni Collette and Adam Scott, they've sort of drifted apart a little bit. And so things aren't exactly going amazing going into Christmas.
I think you can call Toni Collette Martha Stewart-esque.
Sure. And, you know, but you can tell they love each other. They just kind of have their issues. Do it. And in true Christmas Vacation form, their crazy in-laws show up, led by one Mr. David Koechner, the world's greatest comedian. He brings with him his wife, their crazy drinking aunt, who isn't that the woman that's in the 2.5 Men?
Yeah.
Like playing literally the exact same character.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And two daughters who like there's this kind of running joke that he wants them to be like boys. So they're dressed up very kind of manly and they're wrestlers and it's like this whole kind of running thing. Anyway, they don't get along. It's craziness. David Koechner presumably would be a Trump voter. Adam Scott, probably, I'm going to say Bernie Sanders.
Topical.
What do you think, Mark? And they don't get along. You know, there's all kinds of like political stuff going on between them. The kids don't like each other. And it leads the one kid to getting really upset, tearing his Christmas letter to Santa up and throwing it out his window, which then flies up to the sky and summons Krampus, the Christmas demon, with the corkscrew wiener, according to the internet.
Not pictured in this.
And then
this film
bad stuff
adaptation.
happens. Basically, they get locked they're in the house. A blizzard rolls in out of nowhere. The sun disappears. There's no one else around. It's like I liken it to the mist today over email because it's just like apocalypse. Like everything's kind of done, and they can't figure out why. And in the process of fighting against Krampus's demons, Mark, maybe learn a little bit something about love.
Yeah, sure.
How's that?
Sure.
How's that for synopsis?
Great.
Joe, what'd
Yeah.
you think about this movie going in, and then tell me what you thought about Krampus.
I don't think my expectations were as high as Mark, but I was looking forward to it. I think the PG-13 rating kind of threw me off a little bit, so I was a little apprehensive, but I loved it. I thought it was great. I could see this being a movie that I will watch probably, every year around this time. I didn't think the PG-13 rating really hindered it at all. There's not any gore in this, but I still thought it was a lot of fun. I thought Koechner was really funny, and I kind of like the dynamic between him and Adam Scott.
He was delicious.
Yeah. And I really like that Allison Tolman. I don't know how to say her last name, but Koechner's wife in this, who was on Fargo. I thought her and Toni Collette together
She's
were
in
really
like
well.
Fargo, the show.
Yeah, the first season.
I've seen her in something, but I couldn't really.
She was in The Gift
Yeah.
that we watched this year.
Oh,
Must
that
have.
gift. Okay.
Goatee movie. Yeah.
Right. Sorry,
but
Mark.
yeah, like,
I
all around,
insist
there
on
was-
making you differentiate between that one and the Katie Holmes one.
Like
Okay, The
I
Gift
feel
with
like
Goatee.
this is a great movie to kind of show like your friend who isn't into horror. It's not like over the top scary. Like I think we'll probably relate this to Gremlins a lot, where it definitely has scary moments, but it's not like a super gory horror movie. And I think there were some really awesome effects in this, especially with like some of the toys that kind of come to life, or like these weird little creatures that
Great monster stuff.
that
Great.
the Krampus. Yeah, like all around. Like it it felt like a really high end full moon horror movie in certain parts.
I kind of like that comparison.
So yeah, all around, I really enjoyed it.
It was like full moon, but not unwatchably terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Evan,
Yeah.
thoughts about Krampus going in, thoughts coming out.
So going in, I kind of had, I guess I would say, tempered expectations. I was excited, but I wasn't thinking it was going to be the greatest thing ever. But I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I thought that it was, I wouldn't say it was hilarious or terrifying, but I think it struck the balance pretty good between the two.
Mhm.
Where, like Joe was saying, it was PG-13 and there wasn't much gore, but it was still pretty violent. And I thought that really kind of pushed home the horror side of it. The creatures and everything, most of them were kind of practical effects, which I thought were really cool. Actually, that Jack in the Box we'll talk about later. And then even like things were pretty fun. And I don't know, I thought that they did a really good job of kind of doing the whole, Christmas should be about family and about relationships, but it's not. And this is how you bring it back. But still made sure to do like a fun horror movie in the middle of that. And like performance wise, I thought everyone was great. I loved the grandma. And the kid I like too. I don't know if you guys have seen Chef before, but he's in that, and I think that's a really movie.
It's a movie.
The John Favreau.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was one of those.
Oh boy.
Okay, Mark,
Yeah.
what did you think of Krampus?
Liking.
Sorry, we lost Evan. Evan's like going in and out of existence. But the this whole Krampus thing has been kind of a roller coaster ride for me. Because I don't know, like Gremlins is one of my favorite movies of all time. Anyone that is like up on my internet knows that like I am just kind of obsessed with it. And so the idea of there being this like new kind of like creature focused Christmas horror movie got me super excited. And obviously like the Krampus thing has kind of like come into pop culture in the past few years. Like people used to never talk about it. And sometime in the, wait, hold on a second.
Uh-oh.
Krampus is the new bacon of the internet.
Yeah. Sorry, Eric, were you muted there?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
I was.
Now you are unmuted. All right, let's recenter here. So Krampus is a thing now. Really excited that there was going to be a movie. And then I reached a point where I realized that perhaps I was too excited. So I needed to kind of like bring myself back down to earth. And
In
I
all
think
fairness, that happens to you a lot.
I get really excited. Yeah, that's a thing that happens to me. But honestly, like I really like this. I wouldn't say I'm like totally over the moon about it, but the more I think about it, the more it's I really liked it and maybe even loved it. But I think it was Evan that brought up this point that this when we were talking about it over email, someone said that this kind of feels like one of those like VHS movies that you would pick up in like in the 90s that had just this really like cheesy kind of character to it. I thought that all of the performances were fantastic and almost in a way kind of unworthy of how silly all the material is.
It's
like
a
they
great
just did
cast.
It's
a great job with it. The effects were awesome. I'm a big Weta guy, and Weta was involved pretty heavily with all these
cool.
effects. Lots of practical effects, which you can tell. And there's also this just kind of like dark mean streak running through it that I would argue was also running through Trick or Treat. And we can talk about kind of the ending, but I just thought it was a really interesting balance. And overall, with my sort of tempered down expectations, this actually ended up being really great. Like I would definitely, I'm with Joe that I think this would definitely come in as like a seasonal viewing sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you guys. I really did not know what to make of this movie. I mean, the trailers spelled out the story fairly decently, but not really the tone. And I think that was like a big part of our conversation pre-show was like what we thought the tone was going to be like versus what it turned into. And it's definitely, I think the consensus was that it turned into more of a comedy. Well, I don't know. I thought it was going to be more of a horror film that's funny, whereas parts of it are like, there's a lot of comedy in this movie. But then also, like Mark says, this mean streak, like then all of a sudden there's just like something really fucked up that happens to a kid, or, really mean-spirited humor involving like Koechner's character, or I don't know, it's and some of the creature work is like legit scary. The whole like I don't know what you would call it, like Jack in the Box worm thing is like one of the honestly, I would put that in like a top 5 like creepiest moment for me this year, which is
flying
weird.
angel like doll
The
thing.
angel thing, which is weird though because they're also in a movie where David Koechner has a showdown with a shotgun and a bunch of like gingerbread men who are trying to kill him, which is just goofy, but it's funny. But then some of the creatures are terrifying. The elves with their masks on are scary as hell. You know, the design of Krampus himself is pretty genius. You know, you actually see like more of the minions. But so I don't know. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it reminded me of Gremlins a lot, which I'm sure is intentional. I think there are a lot of shades of Christmas Vacation in this movie. Like maybe some might argue a little too much with some of the characters.
No, like
I mean, Koechner is Randy Quaid, like straight up. His whole deal, the family, the whole back and forth between him and Adam Scott is like that whole thing in Christmas Vacation, but modernized a little bit.
I mean, and the tree catches on fire, so
Right.
you know, like there's gags ripped directly from that movie, and I think not in like a lazy way, but I would say in like a lovingly referential way. But I could see that would be like way too, like a little too far over.
Here's the thing though, like, and it's I don't know. I feel like maybe our show more than most, I like to remind people of this stuff, but I get that there are a lot of people that hold that movie to like high regard. I'm one of them, but that movie came out like 30 fucking years ago. So
that's not true. I was not 7 when that movie came out.
When did it come out?
Wait, Christmas Vacation?
It was at least 25, right? Like early 90s?
No, hang on. The internet.
To the internet.
All right, Joe, even if it was 20 years ago, my point being, you could have a large portion of your Krampus viewing audience that's never seen it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. 1989.
I mean,
what is that?
Boom. So that's like 20-something years.
Yeah.
26.
Sure.
Boom.
Yeah.
There he is.
College
There's
kid
Evan.
says 26.
I mean,
I'm with him.
you know, there's a lot of like Home Alone in this too, with the kind of like bullying family members,
wishing your family that is gone and like that kind of shit. I don't know if it's like that explicit, but
I made my family disappear.
you know what was interesting is because I talked a lot about I talked a lot about not knowing how mainstream audiences are going to take this. I can't speak to it, and I haven't really paid any attention to like mainstream reviews. But what I can say that surprised me is like my audience was so into this movie and really seemed to be in tune with the comedy of it. Like in the scene with Koechner and the gingerbread cookies, people were like losing their shit.
Well, that's a very interesting point because in my, like I was just hyper aware of my expectations and like what was happening in the movie. And when I first saw those gingerbread men, they're all CGI. And I was like, oh no, this is going in a direction that I'm not on board with. But that scene you're talking about specifically, when the shit hits the fan and all of these, like you first see all of these minions and they're just, everything's going crazy. That's when the tone of this movie really sort of like sets in. And specifically the scene with the gingerbread men, like they're like lit on fire and running around screaming. And everyone was like, everyone in my theater too was just losing their fucking minds. Like they thought it was hilarious. And like, that's when it takes on
running into walls.
Well, there's a bunch of things going on simultaneously too that gives that whole part a great energy.
Well, it's the pacing of this movie is kind of crazy because they treat the first portion of it like it's a little bit of comedy, but it's also a little a little dour, and there's a little bit of a monster movie thing, like something crazy's happening, but we can't see exactly what it is, and then it just like takes this turn into full on like Gremlins-y slapstick kind of craziness, and then I think that's when I was just relieved that I was like, okay, this is as good as I hoped it would be.
But I think it's really just that one scene with the gingerbread man, and
that's
I think
definitely the wackiest part.
Yeah, like and other than that, like that's what I kind of liked about the humor in this. Like it wasn't like slapstick. It was very like you kind of said, like Christmas Vacation. Like it's very sort of situational. Like everybody can kind of relate to the fact that like your asshole relatives are coming over and like you don't want to deal with them, and like I think there was like a Saturday Night Live skit where, what was it, like Thanksgiving, and like your creepy uncle is talking about like how Trump has got some like really good ideas. It's that sort of like tension.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny because I brought that up over email. Like, how many of us are going to go home this Christmas. And you know, whatever. I guess whichever side of the aisle you're on or whatever.
Eric hates my racist rants during Christmas.
No, like you're gonna have to deal with some awkward situations this Christmas because of like the mood of the country right now, right? And so this whole thing with Koechner and Adam Scott is like kind of too close to home for me right now. Like, you know, he's talking shit to him because he like doesn't have a gun to protect his family and like all this bullshit. So
we all dread Mark's "wake up, white people" speech at the Christmas table.
but I think it's like a testament to how good the writing is in this and how good Koechner is, because you really end up liking him in the movie. And I think a large part of it is just that Koechner is a really likable dude, even when he's saying boorish shit. Like that's the whole, like Todd Packer on The Office, that whole character was just him saying offensive stuff and being funny, you know what I mean? So like, and Adam Scott helps too, and they kind of form this like adorable bond throughout the movie because they're both trying to just like, you know, protect their families and stuff.
But I think they scaled back Koechner's character enough that you didn't like hate him. Like he had guns and he had like a big freaking Hummer, but you know, they could have easily had him like flying a Confederate flag from the back of it.
They softened him up a little at some point too.
Like, but you know, at the end of the day, he was still like a father and like he cared about his family. Like I think it goes back to the writing. Like I think they did a really good job with these characters. And
Krampus bringing people together, you know, just when we need it the most, Joe.
One thing I thought was cool too is that, like, you know, we've kind of talked about it, and we're talking a lot about these like minions, and it is sort of paced in this weird way that you don't really see a lot of Krampus initially. You get to see more of him at the end, but it's this very interesting like monster movie buildup. Like, don't show your monster. You see him like in the shadows, and you see him for like brief moments. And I thought that was just kind of fascinating. They do, and you know, they have this character of like the old German grandmother who sets up these, you know, these rules. And I thought, you know, again, if we're making the Gremlins comparison, like knowing what you're working within is really, you know, I think makes everything feel more solid. And this whole like, you know, Adam Scott's like, what should we do? And she just says, keep the fire hot.
Yeah, it's cool.
And you know, when the second wave of monsters come, basically the elves come, the first thing they do is put out the fire. And I just thought like little touches like that were kind of cool, because then you get this like, it's paced in a way that you're like, oh fuck, we are going to see Krampus because they put the fire out.
Also, I can't believe Schnars is not here this week for me to ask him questions about his grandmother who only speaks German that I'm sure exists.
Yeah, probably.
So, what are the odds?
Oh.
Also, I'm going to put it out there. I think Michael Dougherty is an anti-fat kid, because they had, you know, they had the portly kid lured in this movie by the gingerbread, and also the short in Trick or Treat with Thurman Merman. So
it's a little Willy Wonka-esque.
Yeah. Anti-fat people.
I think that character was a little more offensive to slow people, Mark, because every time they cut to him, he literally is just mouth open, just like, I don't think he has any lines in the movie.
No, he doesn't. I don't think he says a word.
Dead silent.
It's interesting. I like, obviously, I don't know. It's become a joke that I don't like Trick or Treat that much, but I find the whole trajectory of that film really interesting, going from this thing buried by the studio to like a cult classic in a lot of respects. And then like I don't know, Joe, if you pulled his IMDb up, but I don't think I've heard this dude's name since then until like a couple months ago when I started hearing about this. So
he's done a lot of writing.
And it's really fascinating because in a lot of ways, like if you strip the specifics out, these movies are so similar. Like they're both of them are very much rooted in like the childhood wonder that surrounds holidays and the way that that can kind of fizzle out as you get older. And like it's about holding on to it and the meaning behind the holiday. And they're such similar films. That's what I find really interesting about it. And it's a cool story that now he's got this kind of, all right, let's call it a hit, surprise hit with this movie that, you know, another holiday movie with a lot of heart to it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting. Like it's a running theme throughout the show that, you know, we always say this, like, we don't always shit on a PG-13 movies just because they're PG-13, but this is an example of a PG-13 movie that totally gets away with just enough, you know? It's like, it's just scary enough. the humor is like just blue enough and just kind of edgy enough, and it works. Like it's not an issue with PG-13 movies. There's just you need someone who kind of gets the sensibility, and I think that works out really in its favor.
I'm also just kind of over that argument in general. Like, I think it can be kind of a shallow argument, and I think that it can lead to dismissing films that are good because they're not PG-13. You know what I mean?
Well, but we always, I think it's just kind of a chicken and egg scenario. Like, do we hate PG-13 movies because they're bad, or movies bad because they're PG-13? But like,
Right.
like all of the PG-13 movies we watch are usually just like neuter derivative bullshit. So this is just kind of a weird exception. Like this feels like something that with a different cast and a different, I would say just with a different cast, not even a different director, would be like direct to video, and somehow it found its way in theaters and actually did pretty well.
It's interesting to me as a thing that was made and found its way to a theater because, man, it definitely could have not gone that way for this.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 5 years ago when you couldn't buy like Krampus ornaments and shit, or like Krampus Christmas cards, this movie doesn't get made.
I honestly, and maybe this is just me like overplaying my Adam Scott hand, but I feel like that is a dude that if you can say he's going to be in the trailer, you can like somewhat sell a movie or sell it to a studio. Like, hey, this guy's going to be in it, because even if you don't know his name, I feel like you recognize that guy as a guy who has been in good modern comedies.
Well, and Toni Collette too, for sure.
That's what I was about to say. Like, I would love to hear like how he actually landed all these people to be in this movie. Like Toni Collette is like, she's won like awards. Like she's
like a real actress.
She's
an actress with a capital A.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty impressive. I don't know.
You guys want to talk about the ending here? We lost Evan, by the way. We'll try to get him back, but we're not positive.
Let's put up sorry, Evan. Apologies to Evan, or apologies to the internet in general.
Put your hands together.
Pour a drink out. I guess this is kind of spoilery, but eventually you do get to see Krampus, and I thought what they did with it was awesome. I thought that they showed just enough. He was super creepy. He was also like gigantic and intimidating, like practical effects. Just like a really. Like you could put that costume, you could put that person like walking through a mall, or you know what I mean? Like it just seemed very real, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about like the kind of like the twist, like get into wicked spoilers here, because that was a big topic of conversation with us pre-show. Do you want to like walk us through all that, Mark?
Sure. So just before we get into that a little bit, I would just want to like, if I could be critical about any part of the movie, it's that the first half of the movie is very much about these family dynamics. And then when things start getting fucking crazy, like things are crazy and sustained and really interesting for a while. And then you kind of realize that they had this ending in mind. So they had to sort of fast forward to the ending. And that'll make a little more sense when I explain what's going on. But basically throughout this movie, and thanks to whoever pointed this out to me, but like they're looking out the window and they see these snowmen, and like as the family members are getting offed, basically, not really violently, but like one of the kids is swallowed by this Jack-in-the-Box monster. One of the kids is like, the sister she disappears really early on because she goes to see her boyfriend and never comes back. And so people are sort of like dropping like flies, and it comes down to like a very interesting combination of people. It's the kind of main kid, his father is played by Adam Scott, and his mom, and then one of their cousins basically are like, and her mom are like the last of these people. And they have this plan basically to get to this snowplow that they saw earlier in the film, and and make their getaway, which of course isn't going to go well. And basically what happens is that in getting to the snowplow, everyone is basically like yanked away through the ground except for this main character and his cousin. And and Krampus and the elves, who are these like crazy little, I don't even know how to describe what the elves are. They're these kind of like pagan worshipers with all these masks and stuff, which I thought were like super fucking creepy.
The elves were hella creepy, yeah.
Yeah, they take his cousin
Very
away.
flying monkey-esque in their scariness, I thought.
Yeah.
Like, dun, 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 dun.
So they, they take his cousin away, and he follows them into the woods, and they have this moment where you think he's gonna be like, I don't believe in this, and like all of his family comes back, and he sort of does this like, I didn't mean to lose faith in the holiday and whatever. And Krampus like kind of tilts his head to the side and is like, you think you're gonna have that moment where you sort of subvert the rules and everyone comes back, and then he and all the elves start laughing, and a hole opens up in the fucking ground, and he drops him into the hole in the ground, and you're like, oh, okay, well, everyone's been murdered, and that's how this movie ends.
Which, to be fair, like, even as someone who can enjoy a dark ending, like, I probably would have been like, WTF if that.
Well, you're like, oh fuck, like everyone's been murdered. So, there's
everyone's been murdered.
There's a fade out and like a fade back in, and he's in his bed, and you're like, oh no, they're going with the it was a dream the whole time ending. He goes downstairs, the family's still alive, they're opening presents, and he opens his present, and his present is this little bell that has Krampus inscribed in it, which is a callback to earlier in the film. His grandmother was talking about her parents being murdered because she gave up faith in Christmas, and Krampus gave her the ornament so that she would never forget, and she would always, keep the spirit. So it's a callback to that. And then you get this long fade out, and you realize it's not a dream. They've been imprisoned in a snow globe, and it's basically in like Krampus's house, let's say.
But you missed the key part too, though, where like the whole family sees the Krampus ornament, and they all just get this grim look on their face. Like everyone's acting like everything's fine. He opens it, and he's the first one. Like, you see it click with him, and then around the room, like, everybody slowly starts realizing what's happening, and then it's almost like it all comes back to them too, all at the same time. Well, and nobody says a word, and it just gets like grim as hell.
You hear kind of flashbacks of like what happened to them.
Right.
So they all of a sudden it sort of dawns on them like what had happened in the past.
Yeah, and so they're trapped in a snow globe, which like I am so conflicted about, because I do think, John brought up over email, even though he wasn't on the show, that that it was kind of like it was all a dream the whole time ending, and I sort of agree with it. Like it feels like a little bit of a cop out, but it's this interesting thing that if this was a 15-minute sketch in like an anthology film, like if this was a 15-minute short, you'd be like, oh, nice, because it's got that sort of like cynical fairy tale ending. But at the end of like an hour and a half long movie, it just feels to me, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was
a little weird. I'll agree.
Here's the deal, though, Mark, and I think it's time for some real talk.
Can I finish?
And I'd like to preface this with, it's not directed at you. But
I mean, it feels like it.
No, it's really not. No. Like, because I'm seeing a lot of this on the internet, like people being like, sounding like that.
How did they even type those words?
Trust me, it's hard. Really though, like, I think people got really excited in the horror community that this movie is getting made. It's Mike Doherty. People are flipping their shit out about it. But if you really thought, I'm sorry, like this was going to be a hard R movie where everybody fucking died and it's got some dark nihilistic ending, it's going to come out at Christmas, that's delusional.
Yep.
And I know you're not delusional. I'm not, like I said, but like there's just no way.
No, I know, but
I had a lot of trouble trying to figure out like one that like these people are actually dying, because everybody in this movie, like especially like Adam Scott and Toni Collette and Koechner, like they're pretty high build in other movies that they're in. So like in the back of your head, like outside of this movie, you're thinking like, how are they going to get around like actually killing these people?
At the point when little kids start dying, know, like there's no way they can stick with this.
I mean, they're only out, to me, and this was a point that was brought up after the fact, is that like every time someone disappears, you see a snowman in the yard, and I for sure thought there was going to be some sort of like callback where they all break out of the snowmen at the end of the movie.
Stupid with the little like wood statues.
Yeah, exactly. And like I would have been okay with that. Somehow that feels more. I think that they they definitely put themselves in a corner of being like offing all these people. You know, not to, I think this might be the last Gremlins comparison we make, but like I was talking about how no one really dies in that movie. There's, you know, plenty of mayhem and like someone's like trampled by like a plow or a car or a truck. I can't remember which, but like no
That
one.
old cat lady goes flying, doesn't she?
Yeah, but like no one. It's all like Looney Tunes. Like no one explicit. There's no like explicit deaths in that movie. But there's also like 2 to 3 main characters in that movie, where this has like an entire cast of main characters that you sort of have to deal with.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't disagree that, like, I think that Eric, you're right in a way, in that it doesn't matter. Like it's pretty inconsequential, and that, you know, it's just kind of a silly movie. And
Well,
they're not going to have it be this super bleak ending. I just wonder if there was like a different way to wrap it up.
I definitely think it maybe could have been handled in a more like creative way to make it seem a little less like rote. But I just don't think, I think that a really dark nihilistic ending betrays what's great about this movie. Like at the heart, this may be like a dark, creepy Christmas movie, which is not something we get that often. But at the heart of this film, again, it is just like Trick or Treat. This is a film about like childhood wonder and spirit. You know what I mean? Like it's about the fact that this kid doesn't want to lose his innocence, and he just wants to believe in Santa and believe that like his parents are okay. And he makes like a rash emotional decision in the beginning that has these negative consequences for his family. And I mean, yeah, like, okay, it's cliche, but like that's what this is at the heart of this movie. So to me, a dark ending betrays that, because you set those stories up, those like It's a Wonderful Life-esque stories, so that you can get the redemption. I mean, now maybe if this goes direct to video, you get your dark, creepy ending, but I just don't think from the beginning that's kind of what this needed.
But I mean, yeah, no, I get it. But like, I'm not saying the alternative to the dark ending.
They
like,
could have done it more gracefully.
The alternative to this
sure.
ending isn't necessarily just a dark ending. Like there could have been a more sort of like, I hate to say it in a movie that's like so ridiculous, but like a based in reality sort of ending. I don't know.
Sure.
Like it just,
I think that you're taking a level-headed approach to it, whereas a lot of what I'm seeing in the internet is like, yeah, they should have murdered all the kids. Woo.
Yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, that's definitely crazy. Not the point I'm trying to make. Yeah. Like, because if we saw that movie, I'd be sitting here being like, that was not okay.
Yeah,
you know. Although Evan pointed out in the chat, since we have lost him to the the speed of the internet, he said ballsy move for getting that baby taken away, because there is a point where a baby is fucking whisked away, you know. And when we say killed, like, no one's explicitly like murdered. They're whisked away. Like they're either like pulled up a chimney or like pulled underground, which is like perfectly kind of slapstick, you know, like just perfectly a way to get rid of someone, which is what made me think that they would be coming back in some sort of way, because no one has ever like, it's a PG-13 movie, right? No one's devoured, or you don't like, find someone's head somewhere.
But also, and like there are scenes where like Koechner gets his arm like sort of chewed up. So there is sort of like that, because I was kind of expecting at the beginning, like, oh shit, like they have all these like sort of stars, like nothing's actually going to happen. And there is a certain part where you're like, all right, there is some actual danger.
I thought we were going to lose Koechner early on, and I was about ready to check out of this whole fucking thing.
I mean, it's just where it lands is fascinating, right? Because it's cynical enough to be like, fuck it, we're just gonna like off these characters and go sort of dark, and then it does wrap up in like in a pretty interesting way.
You could argue, and I thought, like, I didn't even think of this because the ending kind of comes out of nowhere, but Evan made this great point that like it really is a dark ending. Like it's a fake out. It's a fake out. It's like, oh, everything's fine. Psych, you're actually like stuck in fucking snow globe purgatory.
I mean, it's
for
like
eternity.
It's like old school fairy tale or like Twilight Zone ending,
morality tale kind of thing. Yeah,
but so I think, like, to the point you guys were kind of making earlier, it's a very anthology ending to a like sort of snippet rather than like a whole movie.
Right, because you're not meant to think about it for any more than like 2 seconds, because you're already being pulled into the next thing. And I don't, again, like I really like this movie. I didn't.
Oh yeah.
The ending sometimes a bad ending will ruin a movie for me, and this is totally not the case.
Yeah,
Like
not
the
at all.
the journey was totally worth the kind of silly ending.
I'll be honest, and maybe it's just me these days, but I feel like I totally would have been all right with like a schmaltzy ending where like his sacrifice causes like Krampus to give him his family back. Like the snowman melt and there's his family. Like
that's what I was expecting. And
cheesy
that's what I was
as
totally
that
on
would
board
have
with.
been, like that would have been an ending that this movie I feel like would have earned on some level.
Yeah. I don't think the ending was great, but I can't think of like another version where I'm like, oh, they should have just done this. So.
Well, it's hard to, you know what it is? It's like the PG-13 combined with the ending, and I think people read into it of like that it was forced to be changed or, something like that. But
F those people.
This didn't really this felt pretty well realized to me.
Yeah.
If only in like a kitchen sink, like we're going to have creepy, silly toys. And also we're going to have these like weird little pagan elf people, like just fucking go. I love that it like came in waves like plagues. I just thought it was like, I don't know.
Nobody wants a Charlie in the box.
In a way,
Nobody wants a Charlie in the box.
I'm just surprised. I'm really like,
I love those.
The best.
Even now, just thinking about it, I'm like really surprised this movie even made it into theaters, let alone did so well.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And like
Totally,
pleasantly
like,
surprised. Like this
Totally
is
built
something...
on the cast, I think.
Yeah.
Which is why like I'm so interested to actually hear like how he convinced like Adam Scott to like sign on for this.
I feel like that's a dude who's done a lot of like interestingly wacky stuff in the last couple of years,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, nobody in this. Tony Collette, I think, is the one that really kind of baffles me a bit about this. And
But
I
like,
almost
what
wonder
has
if,
she
like,
done lately that's super high profile, though?
Ooh, throwing shade at
I'm
Tony
just saying-
Collette.
I almost wonder if she was kind of like the last on board, where she's like, "All right, these other people are doing it." Like,
Listen, I
sure.
applaud these actors for jumping into this movie. Like, I like all of them more for them having been in this.
I would love it if the grandmother was like some, like well-known, like Academy Award-winning actress, and none of us are.
She's great, man. I think
Hold
she's
on, I will confirm or deny that rumor.
Yeah, that's what. I'm
she's
actually
my
looking-
favorite character in the whole movie. I like the way that her like past and knowledge like quietly drives the whole film. And like this, I thought the relationship with her and the grandkid was like really sweet.
Yeah.
So she is definitely a German actress.
Oh wow.
So we understand so little about the actors and actresses we talk about.
She
in the
was
show.
in Frolic.
The Christmas classic.
I
Wallenstein.
swear to God, in the scenes where it's just like Adam Scott, like he's her son, and they speak in German to each other, even though Adam Scott's like was born, in America. And literally, I had this moment where I was like, "This has got to be what Schnars' Christmases are like."
Young Kinder John, come round the table. We're going to open the presents now.
Oh man.
Wow. Yeah, she has 63 credits on IMDb, and 2 of them are in English.
See, that's awesome. I love that. That's great.
She's such a cool character to throw in there.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was really
totally folklore character, which I thought
100%.
And like, what an absurd fucking thing to be like, oh, I knew this would happen because my parents were taken by Krampus. Like, that is fucking ridiculous.
Right, like no one else knew that about her. They're like, it's just craziness. Mark, we got to move on here though. So, movie guide, is that a thing?
Oh, it's so much a thing. There are probably spoilers contained herein, but movie guide tells us how we are supposed to feel about how inappropriate or appropriate movies are based on where they line up relative to Christianity. And Krampus is no different. So there's a review. Krampus features very strong mixed pagan worldview with some Christian redemptive moral elements, including a family learns to come together, love and sacrifice for one another, but they're also punished for making a boy lose faith in Santa Claus and hope. Some Christian parallels to faith and many Christian symbols and references to the birth of Jesus, including a brief scene of a children's movie where an elf recites scripture and grandmother tells children, "It's not what you do, but what you believe," but with strong pagan elements revolving around German folklore that's also strongly occult and includes a demonic kind of force and creatures. And the movie's Twilight Zone ending has no real grace or mercy 21 obscenities, including 2 F words, and 5 profanities, moderate violence with scary creatures, elves, and toys that come alive and try to kill and kidnap the family. Creature bites man on the leg, and wound is gruesome. Man shot in leg with nail gun. Children are taken and killed. No sexual content, no nudity, light drinking and a reference to a hangover. No smoking, but a reference to a marijuana bong. And teasing, humiliation, and angry shoppers and consumerism are shown in opening sequence.
I don't think that's so outlandish.
I'm surprised that they weren't like upset that the making fun of consumerism was like un-American or something.
I mean, they did mention it, so that seems that they might be a little bit upset.
Yeah. No, but it seems like they were upset about it for like the reason they actually should be upset, that it's upsetting to watch.
Did you really have to drop kick him into the nativity scene?
Yeah. I love that whole opening scene was slow motion, though. It was pretty good.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah.
All right, guys. That is Krampus. Time to do fan mail.
Should we do recommendations?
Sure. You caught me before I hit the bumper, Joe, so let's do it. Would you recommend this?
I would. Do you want me to read Evan's?
Evan says yes.
Little note? Yeah. All right.
Mark?
He left like a more thoughtful note. I think Joe should read it.
Evan said, great movie, fun, violent, captured the heart of Christmas. I love the creepy Jack-in-the-Box and Little Demon Angel Woman. Ballsy movie for getting that baby taken away. Can someone mention Tweet BGH? We're doing Critters 2 on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Mark, do you recommend this?
Yeah, totally.
I agree, yes. And
Sorry, Eric.
this time of year, theater. Go see that shit. Go do it.
Yeah, make it happen.
All right. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Chud, check your basement and your bathroom. Keep off the street and try to hide. But remember, the dark is their place. The night is their time. And tomorrow, the only things living in the city of New York will be Chud. Chud. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers. Chud. They're not staying down there anymore.
This is Jason Mewes, and you're listening to BloodyGoodHorror.com. Yes.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back.
Oh!
Back in the house. Not a lot of fan mail last week. A ton this week. To make up for it. Apparently people have just stopped doing things at work. Which, 'tis the season, right? First up, Joe Lind. Despite my recent revelation that I ruin every episode for myself that I write or tweet in with knowledge that something stupid that for some reason I thought was funny and or clever is about to be read, I really think this is a good idea. After re-listening to number 300 and nearly dying of suffocating laughter, I think the Joe character, Lewis Fowler, and the Snares character need to do at least a monthly podcast.
I love that the character thing has like
thing
taken
now,
on a life
yeah.
of its own. Yeah.
Lewis did say on 300, quote, anything you need, and I think it's time to cash in on that crazy bastard. Thanks to the magic of the internet, there are not enough homeless people to carpet Snares' escape path, and he will have to reprise his role as Kyle's mom, reacting to the ludicrous things these two come up with. Anyway, thanks for everything, BGH, and much love to Dad, my favorite smug asshole ever, and the adorable bearded miracle. I guess that's Mark. Also, I wrote this on my phone while jogging. Please mock regardless. It's a lot of typos.
Jolene.
There is a certain part of me that thinks a show where Schnars had to wrangle Joe and Lewis Fowler would be fucking amazing, but it would last one episode. John would quit. So
yeah, I
He's
love
not ready to
watching
handle this.
John on we use Slack now. to kind of like communicate between like all the writers. I love watching John trying to wrangle everybody in and get their year-end lists. Like you can just see like the rage in his like comments. Like, wait, what are the rules again?
Listen,
like, what are...
I've known Schnars long enough to recognize thinly veiled Schnars rage at this point.
Oh my god, it's amazing. Like, wait,
because it's usually directed towards me.
Can we use movies from 2014, like if they didn't come out to this year, and I can just see John like, here are the rules. God damn
well,
it.
in all fairness, he did send a list out like a month ago.
Yeah.
So.
Also, the general bloody good horror, everyone, there's a lot of excitable people, and we get off on tangents. So I feel him. I get it.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's entertaining. I'm a Joe.
You know, with Slack, I don't. For those of you who don't use it, it's like a chat application, and they have all these bots for pulling in GIFs and shit. It is very easy to get sidetracked to the point where sometimes it's overwhelming.
Well, I log in like maybe once a day, and there's like 400 unread messages.
Oh, yeah.
No, you got to leave it open all the time.
And then I just find myself responding to things that people were talking about like 24 hours before.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. So, next up, NKO Gonzo. He tweeted this right after the last episode came out. My dad has a free tube TV if you want it. That's better than Goodwill. It's free. So, I did ask him where he was.
That is a Craigslist post that ends in murder.
Framus. If Sinister, the Poltergeist remake, and Krampus have taught us anything, it's that being a middle-aged father dealing with stress requires a cardigan sweater and drinking bourbon out of a coffee mug. And he plans for not a non-horror episode for Star Wars The Force Awakens. Words cannot describe how excited I am for this movie. Shazbot, Nanu Nanu, Framus.
I think the problem is all of us seeing Star Wars like somewhat near opening weekend.
Yeah, we're not doing Star Wars. We do like to do one or two of those types of movies in the summer, but it's not the summer. We have plenty of stuff to catch up on, and
It's
like
gonna be such a pain in the ass.
It's fucking
to see.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
right.
I will
like,
definitely see it, and I'll be happy to talk about it like on a show after I see it. But
sure, definitely, it's Star Wars. Like, what are we really gonna add to that discussion? And also, like, I don't want to ruin it for myself by having to review it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I enjoy way more? Movies that I can just watch and enjoy.
That being said, I am super turgid for Star Wars. I can't explain how excited I am.
Yeah.
Turgid.
The only thing that's ruining it for me is having to read stupid fucking George Lucas quotes every morning.
Well, my big concern is
saying.
like I don't want to see it like opening weekend. I don't want to deal with like giant crowds like, and my concern is like it's gonna get spoiled like by the fucking internet for me.
Yeah. I think it'll be fine, Joe.
I hope so. I love those movies.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that there, even though it seems like there might be a twist, I don't think there is. I think they're just holding things back from the trailer to keep a little mystery.
The only thing open right now is like what's going on with Luke. Like,
well, here's the thing: he's in the trailers. I don't know why people don't.
He was in the first one,
like,
but then he's kind of like disappeared. Like...
Yeah, you can't see his face, but there's a shot of him in the trailers with most of them with R2.
I bet he's trapped in a snow globe somewhere.
But there's like these.
Here's my theory. I'll put this on podcast right now because it said that he's got like the smallest role of like any of the returning people. So I think he's literally he's Yoda now. Like, you're gonna travel to some fucking like swamp somewhere to a hut and talk to crazy old Luke, and he's gonna give you like the piece of info you need about the Force to like propel the story along, and then that's it.
I hope so.
Because guess what? Mark Hamill, like, not the greatest actor in the world.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you almost feel bad that like Mark Hamill is like this sounds terrible, but like the one guy who really needed this. And like now they're like, well, we'll give you 5 minutes in the new one.
Yeah. Well, it's like you put Spock in the Star Trek remake, right? But like you don't put Captain Kirk in it if you can avoid it.
It's like, all right, let's give Han Solo a fucking giant part because Harrison Ford needs that, right? Like,
yeah.
But whatever. Like, I don't want to go too far.
So that's my theory anyway. Like, he'll be in it. It'll be in the like token, like, oh, there's that guy, and he'll like give you advice, and then they'll go on. I could be wrong, but maybe if I am wrong, then there will be stuff to be spoiled for you, Joe. But you know, I just like I want it to be a happy nerd moment. Like, just give me one uncomplicated happy nerdgasm for this year, and I'll be good.
Misa, people gonna die.
But every day I just keep reading about George Lucas like like talking sly like shit about it in interviews, and I'm just like, you are literally the worst.
I've tried to avoid everything.
The
Like I
worst.
don't want to know anything.
I don't look at anything Star Wars related.
Like, here's the thing that I don't think George Lucas gets. Like, if he just shut up and just went away, J.J. Abrams is going to make his legacy look better by restoring respect to the series. And I get that probably pisses him off because he thinks he made 3 good movies. But just like, let us have this, man.
I don't know.
Just go away.
I don't know.
Star Wars isn't yours anymore, is my point. It's ours now.
I can't wait for the fucking
It's
Disney.
Eric's.
Yeah, it's specifically mine.
The Star Wars land come to Disney World and Disneyland.
Oh, God, George Lucas. Fucking asshole. All right, Caitlin Daniels. After the TV convo last week, did Eric notice the guy at the beginning of Krampus carrying a flat screen under his arm and talking on a cell phone? Because I definitely spent that whole beginning scene trying to figure out how he was carrying it with just one arm. I did not.
Flat
Strong
screen
grip.
TVs are pretty light.
Oh, but they're so expensive,
So damn
though,
expensive.
right?
I stand by that.
$100 to $200 at least.
I
Guys,
think you can get them in Happy Meals now.
sound the alarm.
Probably as much as the VHS collection I'm looking at, Eric.
Sound the alarm, guys. I have an email from T-Dog.
What?
T-Dog.
T-Dog.
One Mr. Timothy Dog writing into the podcast. He says, "Hello, gentlemen and ladies, whomever is present today. I love the podcast on the Final Girls."
Barely anyone.
Yes. I loved the podcast on the Final Girls. I totally agree. It was a fantastic movie. I just wish they had pushed it a little further toward R-rated territory, and while the ending was fun, I would have liked a bit more resolution. Have you been keeping up with Ash versus the Evil Dead? In my opinion, it's probably the most fun show on television right now, and as it rests firmly on Bruce Campbell's more than capable chin, I think you may enjoy it. It got picked up for a second season before the first episode even aired, from what I understand. Good talking to you guys. A T-Dog. New listeners, T-Dog, long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
I've been keeping up with it insofar as I've been editing Sophie's posts about it on bloodygoodhorror.com, so check those out.
I don't get stars, so
Yeah,
unfortunately, I
like
haven't
seriously,
watched it.
stars. Come on.
And I disagree because Fargo is the greatest show on TV right now and will ever be.
I have heard that's good.
It's so good.
But I'm interested to see it. I'm interested to see Ash versus Evil Dead, but I'm also like, I don't feel like I'm missing anything, but I feel like I'd probably like it if I watched it.
Yeah, I agree.
Eric is falling asleep. We lost him.
It's been a long week, bro. Stephanie says, hi. I thought you guys might appreciate the tale of how audiences in London, England reacted to the cop-out ending of Krampus.
Oof.
Let's see. I mean, we did just spoil it, right?
Yeah, continued
Okay.
spoiler alert.
As the screen cut to him in bed, there was an audience-wide sigh, and somebody kissed their teeth for 10 long seconds. In case you're unfamiliar, teeth kissing is kind of like a long tut favored by West Indians to express displeasure. I don't know if she means hissing.
I still don't know what the hell she's talking about.
Like hissing, like, I don't know.
I don't know if you guys know, but they drink tea there instead of coffee. So
Oh, yeah, what? She says, then a woman piped up by saying, "Why have I been wasting my time watching this kid's flick?" The protest reached a crescendo with a huge man standing up, loudly proclaiming at us all, "This film sucks," and walking out without even bothering.
was she watching this in her living room
I
with
don't
like
know.
12 other people?
Without even bothering to stick around in hopes of some sort of twist. Turns out he did the right thing. All that ending did was prove that the grandma got her family murdered. Turns out you say sorry, and not only do you get your family back, but also get a nice vintage ornament to adorn your Christmas tree. Stupid grandma. Bye. From Stephanie. I like Evan's interpretation that like everything is actually not okay. You know?
I just want to point out that I looked up kissing your teeth on Google, and one of the headlines is, "I kiss my teeth and suddenly I'm racist."
What? Sounds like one of those internet holes you don't want to go down, Mark.
Yep.
Last up, Neb. No, I'm sorry. Justin Farrell. We'll get to what that means later. You guys didn't seem to care for Bone Tomahawk, so what did you think of Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead? Bonus points if you spot Bruce Campbell in it. He's listed in the credits, but I've never seen him. Justin Farrell, Alliance, Neb. I think that's a Star Trek reference.
I don't think any of us have seen it that way.
No, Quick and the Dead's great, dude. Sam Raimi, it's got Sharon Stone in it, right?
Was that that?
It's classic.
I didn't see it.
I have
Really?
never seen it.
It's really good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's like weird mid-period Sam Raimi, like after Evil Dead, but before Spider-Man. But it's like if you took the exact editing style of the Evil Dead and directing style and made a Western out of it.
I mean, that sounds like every movie Sam Raimi's made. Like if you take his style.
It's good though. It's fun.
Huh. How about that? I haven't seen it. Maybe I should.
Info at bloodygoodhorror.com. We're also on Twitter at BG Horror using the hashtag AskBGH.
All right, we have so many, so I'm going to try to hammer through them.
Also, I'm too lazy to put them in the video tonight, so we're not going to.
Wow, okay. I'll just be doing all the heavy lifting here. Spook It Podcast. I know I'm not the only one asking for Krampus found footage for Christmas.
Krampus found footage, sure. Yeah, like Christmas home movies.
Yeah. You know, because we need... Oh, actually, I saw... No, never mind. Forget it. Next one, RJ and C. What's love got to do with it?
Nothing.
What's love but a secondhand emotion?
Yep. Next one is from Gorilla Axe Punch.
Yes.
Dig it.
Right.
Isn't Room 237 the best Kubrick movie ever? Hashtag Minotaur skis. Hashtag Impossible Window. Hashtag Moon Landing.
I love that movie.
Conspiracy.
I love that movie so much. So much. And it makes me feel like a crazy person because there's always that, like, it's weird. It's different. It's a different, like, section every time. But I have one moment every time I watch it where I'm like, maybe. The stuff I find the most fascinating actually is The Impossible Room. Have you seen it, Mark?
No, I have not.
Oh, so there's an extended scene. I mean, all it is the guy who made Nightmare. And all it is like he's showing scenes of The Shining while interviewing people who have like obsessed over the movie for years and have these crazy theories about all these hidden messages Kubrick put into it. And like Kubrick was the kind of filmmaker that did that stuff. So I guess on some level, some of it seems plausible, but a lot of it's like batshit crazy. But the one really fascinating part is there's a lot of talk about how the layout of the rooms inside the hotel was made impossible intentionally because it's a mixture of these different sets. And so it's like a thing to disorient you essentially, because like there are things that he shows you that are impossible based on the way the rooms are laid out. And one of the specific ones was when Jack comes in for the interview and they point out this incredible thing where the guy comes out to greet him and he's eating a sandwich and reading a Playgirl upside down, which is like the weirdest friggin' thing ever. And just kind of like, it's little stuff like that makes you really look at all the weird shit in the movie. But they lead him around this corner into the office where he interviews in The Shining. And there's this huge, bright window behind him with this tree in it. And it's like really bright and prominent in the frame. And what they go over at length in the movie is that based on where the room is in the hotel, that's impossible because there is no window there because it's in the middle of the hotel. And so suddenly that window becomes this really like creepy, ominous thing in the way they're explaining it. That's my favorite part. Of Room 2. You got to see it, dude. It's like simultaneously a really interesting like film criticism experience and great for like crackpot conspiracy theories.
That sounds right up my alley.
It's a great combination.
All right. Next one, and I don't know if... Oh, Joe's back. Excellent.
Joe, just by count, how many times have you urinated during this podcast secretly?
Well, once right before we started and now two during.
Do you miss like recording in your bathroom when you could just like, you know...
I could just be out and going.
You could just let it go?
This stupid fucking video thing that we do now has ruined everything.
Joe, I gotta say, I can hear you slurring your words right now, which is pretty impressive because you usually hold it together.
I got a few in me. I got a few.
I don't know if we're at Europa Report yet, but we're getting close. This one is, I'm going to just direct it at Joe because I want to hear his answer. This is from PS Gauthier 1313. Minions, annoying or awesome?
I love the Minions.
Is your daughter way into it?
I mean, you know, they're obviously, for a 4-year-old, it's super fun. But we saw the Minions movie in the theater, and it was actually pretty entertaining. Like, at the end of the day, they're the best part of the Despicable Me movies. Yeah. Like, they're, you know...
Our nephew's obsessed with the villain in those movies.
Right.
And he's got, like, a mask that he wears around and, like, yells at people. It's really funny.
The only child that watched Despicable Me and was like, I like to be the bad guy, and not the really cute little...
Wait,
right.
What's his name? The
Rue.
Yeah, the Stephen Carell.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is from Mad Science Pro. Will Joe be gracing us with his amazing German accent for this episode?
Oh, I mean, maybe right now, not the right time to say that.
I think it happened a little bit.
Yeah.
Although I busted it out at work. I've been at this job for 5 months, and I finally let it out for the first time like a week ago. And now, like, I feel like it's my what's the word? Freebird.
I mean, it cracks me up because it's not just a German accent. It's like what I picture like Augustus Gloop sounding like in my head. It's like it's very like little pudgy German kid who loves chocolate and just
Come
like
on, John, come gather around the tree. We're going to open up the presents now.
it's wearing a
You
lederhosen.
stupid bitch, John.
All right. Next one, also Mad Science Pro. What's the worst present you ever got for Christmas?
I got this. Do you remember in the 90s? So, you know, you have sweet RC cars, right? That are like really nice. And then you had like the bootleg Radio Shack ones that there was two kinds. One was wired, which is some hot bullshit. And two were the ones that didn't have like full steering. They had one button, and if you held it, it went forward, and if you let go, it went backwards and to the side. So if you wanted to turn, you had to do like a 12-point turn by just letting go of the trigger. Both of those are the worst presents ever.
Does not ring a bell.
Oh my god.
I don't know if I have a gift that like I ever thought was like garbage, but there was, I want to say probably 3 or 4 years in a row where I got the same exact Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi like action figure like under the tree, which was still like when I when I believed in Santa Claus, and I'm like,
what kind of a dumb asshole is this guy?
Why does he know that I've gotten this 2 years in a row? Like, so
that started to break the facade for you of Santa?
It broke it down for me.
Whatever. I am 33 and my mother still writes from Santa on Christmas presents. So
hell yeah. Keep the faith, Kathy. This was not a bad Christmas present, but just something that I think it was a good Christmas present ahead of its time. I don't know if either of you guys, Eric might remember this, but it was a handheld console called GameCom.
Oh, do you still have that?
Wow.
No.
It's probably worth money.
So I'll get to that. So it came out in 1997, was discontinued in 2000.
It was like a black and white kind of rectangular.
Yeah, it was about the size of a Game Gear. It had a stylus, so it was like the first ever thing to use a stylus, and also connected to the internet. It had you could connect it to a 14.4 modem.
Yeah.
They only ever released like 5 games for it, and
Buds,
it came this game called Lights Out, which was basically like a kind of shitty Minesweeper clone, but you used the stylus to play it. And I played it for maybe like 2 weeks and then left batteries in, and battery acid like leaked on the inside of it, and that was the end of it. But,
wasn't it actually game.com?
Well, it's called game.com, but it was like the very first line in the Wikipedia article is this game.com, styled as game.com, but pronounced Gamecom, not game.com.
Okay.
You know, it was like
the internet.
Well, like the internet's a thing. But then you were like, well, I have to go and hardwire this into my 14.4 modem, which of course we have because it's 1997. Like it was clearly so far ahead of its time, and just kind of petered out. So it was like,
I mean, we lived through like truly like the pioneer days of the internet, and like a period that's going to be looked back at as like so hilarious and like backwards by future generations of like, it's funny.
It's
I
funny.
don't know if you guys.
It was the worst kind of too.
Like local BBSs, but I feel like that's.
So I'm aware of them, but we weren't really into that. We were more like AOL chat rooms.
Yeah. You guys were a little younger than I was, but like me and my buddy, like used to log on to like local BBSs. I remember there was one that had like 2 phone lines where you could actually talk to someone, which was like huge. Like I can't like it like boggles my mind that like kids today like don't even know like what that is or like what it was like pre-internet. It's pretty nutty.
Joe's like, you remember DARPANET? That was cool.
Yeah.
Remember that movie with Matthew Broderick?
Oh, War Games? Yeah. Absolutely.
DARPANET was like the beginning internet mark that was like, it just was like defense computers. And then it hooked up to like colleges and stuff.
Just care to play a game of chess?
DARPA sounds racist.
I just started, actually, sorry, one more thing about old computers. I just started reading this really great book about, it's like what the Dormouse says or something. And it's about how 60s psychedelic culture basically ended up revolutionizing the personal computer movement of the 80s, like how the people that were like big thinkers back then influenced these people that ended up like revolutionizing like modern like personal computers. It's kind of cool.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Acid.
Next one, Blue State Pod. Mark BGH mentioned screaming in a band last week, so how can we listen to that? Well, Blue
Election
State
Day.
Pod.
You guys are on iTunes, right? Like I remember I downloaded this at
Bandcamp?
one point.
Are we on iTunes? I mean, it's possible.
Bandcamp still a thing?
Hold on, are we on Spotify? Someone would have to like upload it, and then
Is
I don't make
Bandcamp still a thing?
maybe. So Bandcamp is still a thing.
Or is like
right?
SoundCloud the new Bandcamp?
Yeah, so every now and then I get some requests to like add to upload all of the songs because we only.
I would like to
recorded,
hear
like,
some Gak Attack actually.
I would not like to do that.
You
So
should though. I have them somewhere.
yeah, one of these days I'll upload these songs so the people can listen.
I forget where I got it, but like I remember when I was just a listener, you mentioned the name and I downloaded it from somewhere.
What about for the 12 Days of Christmas?
Oh, we probably
you
still had a
release-
website when that first happened.
Oh,
What
maybe.
about for the 12 Days of Christmas? You release one track a day for 12 straight days on our Facebook.
That sounds really
Think
weird.
about it.
I think that's a little too much fanfare. for
Speaking
what
of
it
the
deserves.
best presents ever.
Yeah. Well, I'll think about it. That's where I'll go. I'll think about it. Next one, RJC. This is really for John, but I'm going to read it anyways. Now that I have a nice Druid Murloc deck, I think I can beat Schnars at Hearthstone.
I don't know
Yep.
what any of that means.
I finally upgraded my iPhone, so I could probably get back into Hearthstone. I had to delete it because my old shitty iPhone was like full of of crap, but probably would run way better too.
Real good for playing on the crapper.
Yeah.
Yep.
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 We had
Here's
this
a good
discussion.
one. Pitman 1380. There's two more left. Pitman 1382. Who wins in a fight? Krampus from Krampus or Bill Goldberg from Santa's Sleigh?
Ooh.
I would like to see that fight. I mean, probably Krampus, I guess. He's got because Krampus has a whole entourage.
And he's just bigger and scary. And
My
he's got
favorite
pumpkin
image,
head hands.
my favorite
Boobs.
image in the whole film is when they go outside and they see Krampus just rolling with his big ass like woolly mammoths and his whole like entourage all around him. That shit was awesome. That was like the best.
There
thing
was
ever.
that part where like there was the two what do they call them in the fucking Star Wars where the sand people those they like
Jawas.
No, like the bantas or whatever, like they actually rode. Like that's what they're those
Yeah, that's what they look
those
like.
giant mammoth look like, and they like kind of butt heads like when they're laughing. Like it was great. It was really good. I'm still drunk. I don't know.
I kind of wish they went into that little like hangout spot that Krampus had in the woods more. I thought that looked fun.
I assume there was like strippers like in the corner, like
Yeah, like horned hooved strippers. Brazzers. Okay, this last one is from KCPGH.
Oh, hey!
You're all ugly and your mamas dress you funny. That's not a question. And Mark Wilson
I
12
dress
says,
myself. Thank you very much.
Mark Wilson 12 says, yeah, well, Baba Booey was his response to that.
Baba Booey.
So there you go. That's it for the
proper modulation.
Fooey.
Speaking of old things that kids probably don't know about anymore. Baba Booey.
Fooey.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Info. Oddly enough, Drunk Joe and I kind of on the same wavelength. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. We're also on Twitter @BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH.
Yeah.
Rolling into the end of the year here, folks. We got next week is Hellions.
Hellions?
Nailed it.
Yep.
Week after that, the year ender.
Is
Christmas. Year ender. We're going to stream that live to everyone on the internets. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook to find out how you can watch that. Give you a little taste of what the patrons get every week.
Just as a tip.
You would have known that Joe urinated twice. You wouldn't have even had to wait for me to tell you.
I'm pushing 3 if we don't wrap this up soon.
If you want to find out how you can check that out, plus some other cool stuff that you get, you can check out patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. A tremendous year for Bloody Good Horror and our Patreon campaign in general. And, coming to the end of the year, we're going to be extending, I think, a lot more general thanks to people just for supporting us and helping make this. I think, Mark, I might call this our most successful year in the history of Bloody Good Horror.
By many metrics, it certainly is.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we're heading into 2016 stronger than ever. So lots of exciting stuff going on at bloodygoodhorror.com, including year-ender posts coming up very soon. So check the site out every day. That Mark kid has been doing wonderful things over there. So,
also, friendly reminder, killer-flickslunax.com.
Yeah, what is that quick, Mark?
It's a great way to find horror movie recommendations based on the sort of thing you're in the mood for.
Yes.
So if you want to see something scary, or you want to see something funny, or you want to see a monster movie, we have all sorts of
I want to
ways
see hilarious found footage nudity.
I want to see Lunars, Mark. What do you got for me?
Lunars.com.
Well, Joe, a little film called The Poughkeepsie Tapes.
Hey!
Or Schnorrs would say Poughkeepsie.
No, he would say Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie, right. All right, guys, that's our review of Krampus. Gonna do it for Bloody Good Horror. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
Adios.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.